Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, based on your time zone. Welcome in Salesforce Apex Hour, and today we are going to talk about formula and the admin life hack. And we have an awesome speaker, Steve Molis, with us. So my name is Amit Chaudhary. I'm the founder of the Apex Hour and the founder of the Farmington Developer Group. I'm not going to take here too much time, so let me hand over Steve for his introduction. Steve, hand over to you.
Thanks, Amit. Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Molis. Or if you are a member of the Salesforce Trailblazer community, you may know me as Steve Mo. Tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a Salesforce MVP. I was part of the inaugural MVP class in 2010. I'm also a Power of Us Hub Hall of Fame member, and I got my Trailhead Ranger in 2019. I got my 100th Trailhead badge. I'm also a community college dropout. I went to Bunker Hill Community College in Charlestown, Massachusetts, otherwise known as daycare for 18 to 24-year-olds, where I flunked out after one semester. I'm a self-taught Salesforce admin. I've been the solo admin at my company since we first got Salesforce in 2003. And I'm also a world's record holder. I hold the world record for the most time a speaker at Dreamforce has dropped the F-bomb. The previous record was 0, held by every other Dreamforce speaker. So I wanted to share with you some of my favorite formulas and admin life hacks. Now, this is without a doubt the most complicated formula that I've ever built. And I'm super proud of this formula. Somebody posted a question on the Answers community asking for a formula that would prorate the percent of business days lapsed or remaining in the current month. And I built this formula to solve that problem. And next to it is a Swiss Champ VATX. It is the biggest, most expensive Swiss Army knife that you can buy. It's got over 80 blades. It costs $450. And it weighs nearly a pound. Now this is, in my opinion, the greatest formula ever written. Not written by me. This was written by a guy named Tom Tobin from Salesforce. It's called the Power One. And next to it is my favorite pocket knife. It opens bottles of beer. It opens bottles of wine. And I use it every day, just like the Power One. And what I want to share with you is not overly complex, overly elaborate formulas like that Swiss Army knife. I want to share with you formulas that you can use in your org every day, whether you're on professional, unlimited, enterprise, whether you're on Lightning or Classic, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit. These are simple yet powerful formulas. I'm going to show you how to use some basic math to simplify some complex formulas. I'm going to show you how to build some easy dynamic report filters. I'm going to show you a really quick and easy formula to find the ultimate parent account in an account hierarchy for simplified sales pipeline reports. I'm going to show you how to create a formula that will dynamically count the number of days until the opportunity close date for dynamic reports and dashboards. And I'm going to show you a little life hack for how to test validation rule formula logic. So let's step into our first formula. So the first formula came from a question that was posted on the success community, and it was posted by a guy named Bart Ward, and he was trying to create a validation rule that would block users from editing an opportunity and saving it in a stage prior to the stage that the opportunity was currently in. See, for them, their opportunities were like a set of milestones. A deal could only advance forward to its inevitable closure as a win or a loss. A deal could never go backwards. A deal couldn't go from cultivation to proposal submitted back to cultivation. It could only go forward till it was won or lost. And you can see he actually tried to write this validation rule using a function called isPickVal. Now, if you've never used isPickVal, what that does is it evaluates a pick list field and looks for a value that you provide and performs an action that you provide if it finds that value. But looking at an isPickVal function, it's not very efficient. It's like if you want to know what the weather was like outside and you asked your Alexa using an isPickVal, you'd have to say, Alexa, are there zombies outside? Okay, if there's zombies, run. Alexa, is it hot outside? If it is, go to the beach. Alexa, is it warm outside? Go hiking. You can see that it's not very efficient because you have to keep calling to the field again and again and again. So there's another function out there called case. Case acts very much like a is-pick valve function, but you can see that it's much more efficient. It's like saying to Alexa, what's it like outside? If there's zombies, run. If it's hot, go to the beach. If it's warm, go hiking. If it's snowing, build a snowman. If it's not, let's watch Netflix. It's a much more efficient function. So here's the formula that I did. Using the case function, I evaluated the stage and I converted each stage value into a numeric value from 1 all the way up to 6. Now his sales process actually had 16 stages. Now I did the math. Using is-pick-val, I would have needed to write over 150 is-pick-val statements to cover all the possible combinations of stages before and after. But using case, I convert every stage into a numeric value. Then I copied and pasted my case function back into the same formula. This is all one formula. And in the second case function, I wrapped a prior value statement around the stage name. Then in between my first case function and my second case function, I used a less than operator. If the number of the current stage is less than the number of the previously selected stage, the user is blocked from saving the record. They can only save the opportunity at the current stage or move the opportunity on to the next stage. Now you'll notice that I made closed won and closed lost both equal to 6, the highest value in the string. That's because that is, whether it's a win or a loss, that is the last stage in the cycle. Simple formula using some basic math. Now, picklist fields have another evil twin called a multi-select pick list. And this formula came from a question that was posted in the Answers community by Margaret Manna. And in this formula, she was trying to figure out how to count the number of items selected from a multi-select pick list field. Now, I have a confession to make. I hate multi-select pick list fields. To me, multi-select pick list fields are good at 3 things: allowing users to select one or more things from a list of values, sucking, and I forget what the third one is. But as much as I hate them, even I have them on my org, and users are gonna pick things from a multi-pick list field. And one day you're gonna need to get the count of the things they picked. But here's the problem. The values selected in a multi-pick list field are stored as just a lump of semi-comma delimited text, and you cannot pass out the individual values that have been selected. But using a function called if and a function called includes and a simple plus operator, I'm able to count the number of things picked in that multi-select pick list field. So the includes function behaves a lot like is-pick-val. It looks at a multi-pick list field for a value, and if it finds it, it returns a result that you specify. So here I'm going to look at a multi-pick list field and I'm going to look for the first value in the list. If I find it, I return the number 1. If I don't find it, I return the number 0. Then I close that if statement out and I add a plus operator. Then I open up another if statement with another includes function. I go back to the multi-pick list field again and I look for the second value. If I find that, I return the number 1. If not, I return another 0. Then I close that if statement out and I add another plus operator. And I do this going all the way through all of the values in that multi-select pick list menu. Then I add up all of those zeros and all those ones, and now I can get a report and a chart that look like this. I can see the count of each value selected in that multi-pick list field, including the total of all those values. And here's the cool thing. Here I'm turning this into a formula number field, but I could easily use this same logic for a validation rule. Maybe you've got a multi-pick list field that has 10 things in it, but you want to limit the maximum number of things selected to 3 or 4. You just use this same formula and amend it with greater than 3 or greater than 4, whatever your limit is. You get yourself a validation rule. Or maybe you want to build a process where if somebody selects 3 or more things from a multi-pick list field, maybe they qualify for a discount or expedited shipping or maybe special handling. You could turn this exact same formula into a workflow rule or a process builder trigger to fire an email alert or something else. Simple formula that you can use again and again and again using some basic math. Now, next, I'm going to show you how to create some easy dynamic report filters. And, once again, this actually came from a question that was posted in the Answers community. This one came from Sophie Curtis, and she needed to build a report on activities created by the person running the report. Now, if you've ever created reports or list views or stuff like that, you may notice that there's some canned filters in the editor. My opportunities, my activities, my leads, my accounts, my contacts. So the me in my is the owner of those records. What Salesforce is really doing when you pick my opportunities, my accounts, my leads, Salesforce is going and getting your user ID from that session, and it's comparing it to the owner ID of all those records. And it's pushing the records that match out to that report or out to that list view. But the problem is the me and my is only the owner. And she had a process where people were creating activities and then assigning them to other users, but they needed to be able to check back on the status of those activities. But they're not the owner. So they can't use my activities as a list view criteria. And Sophie didn't want to have to build an activity report and filter it by a specific user and then have to edit that report, save it again, and change the filter to another user, and then clone it again and change the filter to another user, and then have 30, 40, 50 versions of the same report. And anytime a change needed to be made, like adding a new custom field to the report, she would have to make that change in 30, 40 different reports. She didn't want to do that. She wanted one dynamic report that any user could pull up and run it just like my activities, but filtered to only show the activities that that specific person created. So here's what I did. I used a thing called a global variable. If you've ever written a formula, you may notice that in the formula editor, you've got the fields that are on the object, but you've also got these things with $ on them. The $ means that that's a global variable. And in nearly every formula, you have access to a thing called $user. $user means the user who is currently logged in that session at that moment in time. So I created a formula field on the object. I selected checkbox as my formula result, and I went in and I got the user ID of the $user, meaning the ID of the user who's currently logged in. And I used a formula of simply $user ID equals created by ID, meaning if the person looking at this report, the person looking at this list view is equal to the person who created this record, show the record. Otherwise, do not show the record in the results. So here's a quick list view that I built to check my work, and I strongly recommend, no matter how simple your formula is, whenever you create a formula field, always create a list view or report that shows the fields that your formula is evaluating side by side with your formula result. So here, looking at our list view, I can see that every record that I created, no matter who owns it, the checkbox field is checked. Any record that I did not create, regardless of whether I own it or not, the checkbox is unchecked. Now, all you need to do to filter your report is grab your formula checkbox field and add that as your list view or your report filter criteria. And whoever is running that report will only see the records that they created, all using one report. So this next formula is another dynamic report filter that I built. This one came from Kelly Knutson, and she needed to create a report that would show the sales pipeline for the current month up to the current day, and she wanted to be able to compare the sales pipeline for the month to that current day against all of the previous month up to the same day in those previous months. And again, she wanted to get this report to be dynamic. She didn't want to have to edit the date ranges, edit the filter criteria every time she ran the report. She wanted the report to be dynamic, just to be able to run the report any day, any week, any month, any year. So I used a function called day, I used a function called today, and I used a less than or equal to operator. Now, if you've never used the day function, what it does is it evaluates a date value or a date field, and it returns the day of the month, a number between 1 and 31 or 28 or 29 if the month happens to be February. It strips off the month, it strips off the year. It only returns the day number of that date value. And the other function I use is called today. What today does is it returns the current date, the full year, month, day. So for example, if the opportunity close date was December 25th, 2017, and I wrap a day function around that, it's going to return the number 25. The today function would return on March 26th, it would return March 26th, 2020. If I wrap a day function around that, it's going to return the number 26. So here's my formula. I created a custom field on the opportunity object. I selected formula as my data type, checkbox as my result type, and here's my formula. I'm getting the day number from the close date, and I'm comparing it to the day number of today. If the day of the close date is less than or equal to the day of today, my formula returns a true checkbox or a checked checkbox. If the day is after today, I return an unchecked checkbox. Now, the second I hit save, this field is available to be used in any existing opportunity report. So I grab my month-to-date checkbox field, I drag it in, use it as my filter criteria, and now I can get a report that looks like this. I ran this report on the 18th of the month, and I can see month by month, side by side, the revenue each month for the first 18 days of the month. And if I ran this report the next day, I would see the revenue for the first 19 days of the month. If I ran it the day after that, I would see the first 20 days of the month. And on the first of the month, the formula checkbox field will automatically reset and only show me the revenue for the first day of the month, no matter what day it is, no matter what week it is, no matter what month or what year, all using that simple formula checkbox field. And a cool thing I stumbled onto after I built this is that you don't have to use it as a report filter. You can actually use it as a report grouping. And now you can see side by side, month by month, how much money came in up to that day of the month and how much came in after that day of the month, side by side. So maybe you use this checkbox as, instead of a report filter, you use it as a report grouping, and you can see that there's a trend in your customer's behavior. You know, while the numbers are down at the beginning of the month, your sales are actually going up each month. The customer's behavior is actually changing, and they just happen to be buying more stuff at the end of the month. So maybe you can use that information to change how you do your inventory control and stuff like that. Now, another one I built is to create dynamic year-to-date reports. Now, the functions I use, just like before, I used the today function. And instead of using the day function, there's a similar function called year. And what year does is it returns the year number from a date or date value. So it's going to return a year anywhere between 1900 and the year infinity. So, and there's a function called day, which you can provide a year, month, day value, and it will turn that into an actual date value that you can use to perform math. So how are we going to get dynamically the opportunities or the cases or the activities or the leads year to date. Again, we're going to create a simple formula checkbox field on whatever object we want to do this report on. And we're going to do something similar to what we did in the previous formula. We're comparing the two values, and if the value is less than or equal to, we return a checkbox. If the value is greater than, we return an unchecked checkbox. So what we're going to do is we're going to count which day of the year the opportunity closed on and what day of the year today is. So the way that you calculate the duration is by subtracting the earlier value from the later value. So to get the day of the year, we have to subtract January 1st of that year from that date. So to get the day of the opportunity close date, we've got to subtract the January 1st of that year from the close date. So to do that, we've got to build our January 1st. So we open up a date function, we insert the year of the close date, and then we know that January is month 1, and we know that January 1st is day 1. Then for today's date, we do the same thing. We know that today, we can get today using the today function, and we have to subtract January 1st of this year from today. So using another date function, we insert the year of today, and again, we know that the year began on January 1st. So we just insert 01 for January and 01 for January 1st. Now we count the number of days from January 1st to the opportunity close date and January 1st to today. If the opportunity closed less than or equal to today's day of the year, the formula returns a checked checkbox. Otherwise, it returns an unchecked checkbox. And again, the second we hit save, every opportunity record in the entire Salesforce org has a checked or unchecked checkbox on it, and every single report has this field available to be used as a report filter or a report grouping. So we open up any existing opportunity report we have, we select our brand new year-to-date close date formula, we select true as our filter criteria and apply the filter. Now we can grab any opportunity pipeline report. Using our simple formula checkbox field, we can see the opportunity pipeline for this year and the previous 2 years, January, February, March. We run this same report without changing any of the filter criteria in April, we'll see April added. We run it again in May, we'll see May added, June, July, August, all the way to December. And in January, the report will automatically reset to just show the first day of the year. We never have to touch this report ever again, all using that simple formula checkbox field. Now, this next one I call the ultimate parent account. Now, if you've ever dealt with account hierarchies on your org and you've had to run an opportunity pipeline report showing the opportunities in that account hierarchy, and you've grouped the report by the standard parent account field, you might see something like this. If the account doesn't have a parent account, you get this blank space in the parent account grouping on the report. Not only that, if an account like Octane Corporation has subsidiaries and those subsidiaries have subsidiaries, the corporate revenue is scattered into all these different report grouping levels. So, and if you add a report chart, it looks even worse. Any account that doesn't have a parent account is over here on the far left with no account name on it. And if the account has a hierarchy like Octane, all of the revenue is scattered in these different bars in the chart that you have to add up using, I don't know, a crayon or something like that. So how do we solve this? How do we get a clean, consistent opportunity pipeline with a multi-level account hierarchy? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a formula field on the account object that will return the name of the top parent account in the account hierarchy, no matter where in the account hierarchy that current account is located, or if it is the top account. But the problem is, what if the account is the parent account, or what if the account has no parent account? So I have to give a little shout out here to a guy named Deepak Anand, or as I call him, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He did a post a few years ago where he solved a problem in the Answers community using a function called blank value. And blank value, it's a function that I had seen for a long time, but it had always mystified me. So the way that blank value works is that it evaluates a field, and if the field has something in it, it uses that field. But if the field is blank, it allows you to provide a substitute to use if the field is blank. So I never knew really how I could use this function until Deepak did this amazing post solving this question using the blank value function. And when I read his explanation, it was just like the light bulb went off in my head. So I built a custom formula field on the account object, and I used the insert function button, and I inserted a blank value, and then I used the insert field button. Now, when you use the insert field button, it pulls up all the fields on that object. But when you're looking through that list of fields, if you see a greater than sign next to a field name, that means that the field is a lookup, and you can click through that field into the next object. And so on the account object, the parent account field has a greater than sign next to it because it's a lookup to the parent account. So I clicked through the parent account lookup field into that parent account. Then I clicked through the parent account lookup field into that account's parent account. And I kept on clicking up and up and up and up and up till I got 6 levels up. So before I built this, I did a little analysis of the account structure in my org, and I found that the highest account hierarchy that I had was 4 levels, and most of them were only 2 or 3 levels. So I wanted to build a little bit of a buffer, so I went up 6 levels. So I inserted the parent account name, but I don't know if this account actually has a parent. So I used the blank value function, and as a substitute, I opened up another blank value, and I went to the parent account name. But I don't know if this account has a parent account. It might be blank. So I opened up another blank value and provided a substitute. I went to the parent account name, but I don't know if that's blank either. So I went up to the parent name. I kept on stepping down until I got to that account name. So if this account has no great-great-great-great-grandparent, great-great-grandparent, great-grandparent, grandparent, or parent, then this must be the top account in the hierarchy. So I simply return the account name. And again, the second I hit save, this field is now available to be used in any opportunity report. Any report that includes the account object, this field is now available to be used. So I open my existing opportunity pipeline report, and I swap my ultimate parent account name with the parent account field that I was using in my report grouping. And now I can get a report like this. This is the exact same report that we started with, but now it's grouped by my ultimate parent account field. So now I can see all of the revenue for the entire Octane Corporation hierarchy all in one nice, neat bucket. And I can see the same thing for Warnham Hogg and Dunder Mifflin. And for the accounts that don't have a parent account, like Three Stooges, Initech, and Midstate Office Supply, now they're no longer grouped by this blank space on the report. The account name shows up alongside all of the parent accounts. And now my reports charts look like this. Every single bar has a label. All of the money for all of the account hierarchies is rolling up nice and neat. And all of the money for those standalone accounts is not in this one nameless, faceless opportunity stack, all using a simple formula text field. So this next one is a formula that I wrote that dynamically counts the number of days until the opportunity close date. So the requirement that I had was to identify open upcoming opportunities and their revenue by stage, as well as expired lapsed opportunities and revenue using standard opportunity reports. And I needed to do it dynamically. I didn't want to have to edit the report filters, change the date ranges or anything like that every time I ran the report. So to do it, I needed to dynamically count the number of days between the current date and the opportunity close date. So I did it again using a simple function called today. So as I said before, today returns the current date, the year, the month, the day. If today was March 26th, it would return March 26th, 2020. The day after that would return March 27th. The day after that would return March 28th, on and on and on until the end of the year, and it would start counting it to 2021. Now, if you've ever set up a custom opportunity stage or edited an existing opportunity stage, you notice that opportunity stage isn't just a regular pick list field. To set up an opportunity stage, you need to fill out some additional pieces of information. What is the default probability for the stage? What is the default forecast category for the stage? And what is the default type for this stage? And there's only 3 choices: open, closed won, or closed lost. Every stage, no matter how many stages you have, no matter how many sales processes you have, every stage is either open, closed won, or closed lost. And depending on what you select when you're setting up an opportunity stage, Salesforce does a couple of things when a user selects that stage on an opportunity. There are 2 hidden checkbox fields on the opportunity object called is closed and is won. And depending on what you selected in this opportunity stage type, Salesforce sets one or both of those checkboxes to true or false. Every stage is either closed or it's not closed. Every stage is either won or it's not won. And so we're going to use that is closed checkbox field. So we're going to create a custom field on the opportunity object. You could also do this on the case object or any object that has a date field that you want to track. We're going to select formula as our result. We're going to formula as our data type. I'm going to select number as our result type. And here's our formula. If is closed equals false, meaning that the opportunity is open, subtract today from the close date, because we want to count the number of days until the close date. Now, if the opportunity is closed, return nothing because it's closed. We don't want to be counting anything. So if the opportunity is closed, it's going to return nothing. If the opportunity close date was February 29th and we were on February 26th, this formula will return the number 3. If the opportunity close date was February 1st and we're on February 26th, it's going to return the number -25, meaning that this opportunity is 25 days overdue. So, like I said before, always create a report or a list view that shows the fields that your formula is evaluating and your formula results side by side. So looking in our list view, we can see the stage, we can see our closed checkbox field, the close date, and we can do the math, and we can verify that the formula is working. If the opportunity is closed, won, or closed, lost, the field returns nothing. If the opportunity is open, and the close date is in the future, it returns the number of days until that close date. If the opportunity is open and the close date is in the past, it returns a negative number, showing how long it is overdue or past its close date. And again, we can use this in any existing opportunity report, any existing report we have, or any new opportunity report we create. We just use a filter criteria of opportunity is open, and then we create a report bucket. Now here's the thing, you cannot bucket by a date field, but our formula is not returning a date, it's returning a number, and you can bucket by a number. So we grab our days until close formula field, we use that as our report bucket, and then we're going to build some buckets. We're going to start by counting the opportunities that are 90 or more days overdue. Then we're going to count the opportunities that are 90 to 60 days overdue, 60 to 90 days overdue, and 30 to 0 days overdue. Then we're going to start counting the opportunities that are coming, that are due to close in the next 30 days, in the next 30 to 60 days, in the next 60 to 90 days, or 90 days or more. Now, we run our report, and we can get a report like this. We can see our entire opportunity pipeline, all in one shot, what is upcoming and what is overdue in nice, neat 30-day incremental buckets, what stage they're at, how much they're worth. So looking over at the right-hand side of the report, we can see that in the next 30 days, we've got $1.2 million worth of revenue coming in, which is great. But I can also see that there's $100,000 that's still in the prospecting stage. Is it really realistic that that opportunity is going to close within the next 30 days? Maybe the opportunity close date needs to be pushed out to a more realistic date. And looking over at the left-hand side of the report, I can see that I've got over $500,000 that is 0 to 30 days overdue. Now, I can see that it's in some of the later stages, proposal and negotiation review. So maybe we just need to look at that proposal a little closely, maybe rework some things, and maybe find out what's causing the negotiations to drag down on that one opportunity worth $125,000. But what really concerns me is the column on the far left. Those are opportunities that are 90 or more days overdue, and I've got over $1 million in revenue in them. Maybe instead of checking on the status of the opportunity, I should check on the welfare of the opportunity owner and see if they're still alive. And I did it all using a simple formula number field in a report bucket. So the last thing I want to share with you is a little, I call it an admin life hack. It's a little trick that I came up with to test my validation rule formula logic. Now, if you've ever written a formula, I'm sure that you're familiar with the check syntax button at the bottom of the formula editor. So, you can write a formula, and before you're ready to save it, you can click check syntax, and hopefully you get the green error message, not the green message, not the red one. No syntax errors in the merge fields or functions. You're under the 5K compile size. That's great. But the problem is that it only checks the syntax of the formula. It only verifies that you're using the right functions in the right format. It only verifies that you have the right combination of parentheses and commas and stuff like that. It does not check the logic of your formula. If you've I may have flunked out of community college, but even I remember from basic algebra that A plus B divided by C and A plus B divided by C, while syntactically correct, have completely different logic. And in a validation rule, that can lead to some bad results. So, for example, what if we wanted to create a validation rule that would prevent users from saving an opportunity with a close date in the past? Well, here's the thing. Just like validation rules, which are Boolean, either a record passes the validation rule or it fails the validation rule, so are checkboxes. Checkboxes are either true or they are false. They're a 0 or a 1. Wax on, wax off. So we're going to create a custom field on the opportunity object. And I've actually created this field on every single object in my org. I select formula as the data type and checkbox as my result type. Now remember, when you're writing a validation rule formula, what you're actually testing for is the condition that you want to prevent. So if the record fails the validation rule, you would get a true result. If the record returns a false result, that means it passes your validation and the user is allowed to save it. So, for example, if we wanted to create a validation rule that would block a user from saving a record in an open stage with a close date that is in the past, we would want to return a checked checkbox field. Otherwise, if the opportunity is closed or the close date is in the future, the record would pass. We would return an unchecked checkbox field. So how would we write this on formula? Well, we could try writing something like this. Closed date is less than today, and the stage is not equal to closed one or not equal to closed lost. Now, I like to write my formulas using ands and ors, but some people use ampersands and pipes. So you might write it like this: close date less than today, and stage name not equal to closed won, or stage name not equal to closed lost. So rather than just write this in a validation rule though, we're going to put this formula into our validation rule test checkbox field. So we write our formula and we check our syntax, and our syntax is correct. No syntax errors. We're under the 5K compile size limit. No problem. Well, we save our checkbox formula. Then we go to our opportunity report or list view, and we include our stage, the is closed checkbox, the close date, the days until close, and our validation rule test checkbox. And we can see we've got a problem. We've got 3 opportunities that are closed won and closed lost and have a checked checkbox field. That means that these records would fail our validation rule. Maybe you have a process where after an opportunity is closed won, the people from shipping need to put in the tracking number, or the people from accounts receivable have to put in the payment date, or the people from service have to put in the warranty number. Those people would be unable to perform their job if you put this validation rule in place, because whenever they tried to edit that closed won opportunity and put in the tracking number, they'd get an error message saying that the close date is in the past, but the opportunity is closed won. They shouldn't have to, they should be able to edit the opportunity and save it without changing anything. So what went wrong? Let's take a closer look at our validation rule formulas. It's the word or. See, when you're a field like opportunity stage can only hold one value at a time. It can only be either closed won or closed lost, or an open stage. It cannot, so the way that these validation rules are written, what it's really saying is that if the opportunity is closed won, well, it fails because that means it's not equal to closed lost. And if the opportunity is closed lost, well, it fails because it's not equal to closed won. It's impossible unless the opportunity is Schrodinger's cat, in which case all bets are off. So let's go back to our formula and remove that or clause and wrap the entire formula inside of a single and clause, or using ampersands, write it like this. Now we go back to our validation rule check formula field. We copy and paste our formula in. We check the syntax. Again, the syntax is good, but now using our report or list view, let's check the logic. And we can see that the only 2 records with a checkbox are the 2 records that should fail the validation rule. Anything that is open but has a close date in the future has an unchecked checkbox, and anything that is closed won or closed lost also has an unchecked checkbox no matter when the opportunity close date is, all using a simple formula checkbox field. Now, there is a caveat. Not every function that is available in a validation rule is available in a formula field. So you cannot use the isNew function, you cannot use the isChanged function, and you can't use the prior value function. But if your validation rule formula doesn't use any of those 3 functions, you can use this simple trick to test them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. This is really a great session. And thank you so much for coming in ApexR and sharing your knowledge.
Oh, thank you for having me.